a lot of responsibility. Trying to change the world. Politics, music, man, something's gotta work. And do it all, I never give up on my people. All right, good afternoon, folks. This is Politics and Music. Welcome. I am your host, Rainey, also known as the former mayor of the great city of Peekskill, former Mayor Ray. Some call me Noodles, some call me Andre, some call me President because I plan to be president for as long as I possibly can to help change the world. Today, I have a special guest. He's not only a special guest, but he's an admired friend, a strong, passionate leader, and he's a re-elected official in the state of New York. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Pete Harckham, New York State Senator Pete Harckham. Welcome, Senator Pete Harckham. How you doing?
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me. And I must be on the politics portion because I know you're not going to have me on Brazil doctors.
Absolutely not. You know, I can get you one of my songs one day. I'll change the world.
I think a really bad saxophone player in high school. Really bad. Really bad. So it's great to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us today and congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you.
A lot of people, who are inspired to run for office, the last, I haven't reached 50 yet or 60 but I know in the last maybe 15, 20 years that I've witnessed an uptake, a spike in people wanting to get involved. I don't know, it's because of social media or it was because of the easier access to information. I mean, we used to have to go get newspapers when we were kids or go to the library. Now you can just click on your phone and Google or Bing something, you can get all the information you want, So being that you have been reelected across the nation, they almost want to call it a red wave, but you were successful at getting reelected. So what do you think it was that, made people want to come out and support you, knowing that, the majority of the nation pretty much voted red?
Yeah, I would say first I would say in New York there was not a red wave. We picked up 3 seats in the House. We maintained 2-to-1 majorities in both the New York State Senate and the Assembly. So we really held our margins. The former president, or now the president-elect, did better than he did 4 years ago. But we still maintain control. But I think, what we saw from voters here in New York and across the country was anxiety about economics. 4 years of inflation really wore on people. They were anxious about the economy. Our polling showed that. And I think we were successful because we were able to speak to that. We spoke of tax cuts, middle-class tax cuts, small business tax cuts, doubling the senior property tax threshold exemption for our seniors. So there were things that we could talk about that were real accomplishments that we had done to address the concerns that voters had.
Absolutely. That's amazing. A lot of, especially the younger generation, it's very vital and important that, you focus on what's happening in your statewide and the local elections just as much as you do in the presidential election, because that information really trickles down to how we live our daily lives. And I think that it's very important to, promote that and advise even the older generation. Now it's like there's more people who turn out to vote during a presidential election than any election there is. In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of people get involved. So congratulations to you and your success, which is amazing. So being that New York, pick up, you said 3 seats in the House?
Yeah.
Okay. So it shouldn't be too difficult to work with, some of your colleagues. But I know there's been a lot of, I want to use the word turmoil, but there's been a lot of challenges within the Democratic Party, especially in New York the last year or so. So, what do you think we can do in the state of New York for those who represent the Democratic Party to kind of diffuse the confrontation that they're having within the party? So,
well, I think we need to focus on shared values because I think that's what we have in common as Democrats is we believe in the power of government to be a power of change, positive change in people's lives. We believe in giving voice to the voiceless. We believe in lifting all boats. And really what the arguments within the Democratic Party have just been how to go about doing that and degrees of that. So, I think we keep keep having our family discussions, but I think just because um, the former president made inroads, I don't think we fall prey to the fear moderate and lose our values and lose who we are as Democrats.
Okay, I really appreciate that answer. I know some people specifically here in the city of Peekskill, that, a neighbor of mine mentioned that, his family won't get together for Thanksgiving, specifically because of their political differences and views, So what would you say to that? Like to people who have the free speech and if the rights of their own opinion, but they can't seem to keep the family together based on their differences of opinion.
We are really divided, Raphael, and it's a shame. Hopefully in those family situations, but even in our community, let's remember we're all neighbors. We all want the same things. We want good education for our kids. We want safe neighborhoods to grow up in. We want access to great parks and recreation. We want more opportunity for our kids and grandkids than we had. That's the American dream, and we all want those same things. So let's try to remember that as opposed to labeling someone as red or as blue, and just remember that we're all neighbors in this neighborhood we call planet Earth.
Be kind to thy neighbor. Now, I will say that, when I was in office, I would always be able to seek advice from you or from Congress, George Latimer, over the years. And I could say for myself, you haven't changed at all. You've evolved into a positive, even more of a leader, in my opinion. So I think that what you do and what you offer to the communities is, it speaks volumes for itself. And even if you was a red state, I believe in my heart of all hearts that you still would have been one of the few to succeed, based on your effort. I've seen you at every possible event. And I used to think that I went everywhere, but if you were a superhero, I think your name would be everywhere, man. You go, you literally go. You're supporting everybody you can. Like you make your time work, and shouldn't say most, but a lot of elected officials can't do that. How do you balance your time with your time giving to the people who voted for you versus giving it to yourself as well as your family?
Well, I think part of that's a challenge, right? It's work-life balance. Um, the first couple of terms, I didn't have much work-life balance because it was a it's a purple district. It's a swing district, and we needed to be out there, and people needed to see us, and we continue to be out there. So, I'm trying to cut back a little bit to have a little more time with my partner and see my daughters when I can. But on the other hand, I love to work, and it's a public who pays my salary, and we need to be out there supporting them in good times and in bad times. And it's just the nature of the job. We're not ready to work 7 days a week, and we give up this line of work and we go back into something that's 5 days a week.
There you go. I mean, you said it fast. You said it first. You said it best. So I do have an interesting question for you. In your work, as an elected official, as a community activist, as a youth advocate, as a person who just fights for what's right, you know, what would you consider one of your favorite? It could be a bill that you'd sponsor, or an event that you've been to, or something that you've been a part of. What would you consider one of your favorite things about the work that you do for people?
I think probably one of the most gratifying things that we do are our food drives. We've done 17 in the community. We partner with faith-based pantries in each community, and we started that during the pandemic,
Nice, yeah.
when people were homebound and couldn't work and couldn't get out to food because they were sick, and we got a frantic call from elected officials in Sleepy Hollow. Well, we had Sleepy Hollow before redistricting, and we did our first food drop, and then we just kept them going, and the community is bought in, and we rotate around different communities in the district, and they're wonderful community event. The teachers union, NYSET, partners with us, and we usually do it at a different school in the district because they have the appropriate facilities for us. So I think those are probably my favorite events.
Okay, that's good to hear. Necessary. Good to hear. So I have something to tell you. So it might be hard to believe this, But there are some people that don't like Mayor Rainey.
No. No. No.
There are some people that just don't like Mayor Rainey. So as hard as that is to believe, there are some people.
I'll call your mother. I'll fight her.
There are some people who, may not have supported, New York State Senator Harckham, or may not have believed that you would actually come through with some of your, promises during the campaign. So what do you have to say to those voters who may have doubted or who may be a little uncertain or unsure? They know that you're here now, so they have to respect the position, but they had their doubts, So what would you speak to this and say?
Yeah, I think we work for you too. We work for everybody. We don't just work for the Democrats. And the thing about my district is half of the municipalities, particularly the further north you go, are represented by Republican elected officials.
Right.
And the southern part of the district are Democratic officials. The Republican communities get as much effort as the Democratic ones. They get as much money, grant money, as a Democratic. We don't, when someone calls our office for help, we don't say what party are you. We say what can we do to help.
Right.
So and it's true. And so there may be ideological issues that we disagree on in the community, but we're there to serve everybody. And if somebody calls with a utility issue, we're on it. If someone calls with a veterans issue, we're on it. If a Republican community in Putnam County needs a letter of support for a grant application, we're on it. When I have discretionary money, every single municipality gets the exact same amount, whether it's a Republican community or a Democratic.
It's awesome. Yeah. Very awesome to hear. The first 6 months in office for 2025, what does that look like for you?
First 6 months, that's when we're back in session. We're in session from January to June. I chair the committee on environmental conservation.
Awesome.
So January is when all of the new bills come into committee. So I'll be sitting down with our council and with my staff. They'll be going through the new bills and sort of charting the path as to how we're going to move those bills through committee, what bills need work.
Right.
So council can go back to those senators and they can make those adjustments. Lots of time with advocates on pro and con on my bills and other bills. So we're in Albany generally 3 to 4 days a week. The governor's budget will come out in February, late January, February, and then by April 1st we have to finalize the budget. So
that's the tough part.
We do a lot of budget work, and then we go through to the first week of June with the rest of the legislative session.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a break. A quick announcement, a Make It Make Sense announcement. We'll come back with one more question for New York State Senator Harckham. You're going to hear a brief word from Senator Harckham, and that'll conclude our show. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome back to Make It Make Sense, where we shine a light on the beautifully bizarre.
Hey everyone, today I'm diving into a topic that hits close to home for many, the shocking state of family courts in New York. Imagine this, you walk into court seeking justice for your family, but what you find is a maze of corruption and inefficiency. That's the reality for too many families. Judges are making arbitrary decisions, tossing aside law and evidence like yesterday's news. Court-appointed attorneys and mental health professionals, they've turned this mess into a cottage industry, profiting from dragging out cases as long as they can. It gets worse. Biased evaluators are pushing unscientific theories, leaving protective parents scrambling for fairness. And judges? Well, they rarely question the work of their longtime colleagues, creating a toxic environment of unchallenged decisions and unfair outcomes.
Make it make sense.
But wait, how do we fix this? Rainey has a few ideas. First up, location term limits. Judges should only serve 2 years in one spot and appointed attorneys 3 years. This stops the old boys club from forming. Next, mandatory rotation. Keep them moving so they're less likely to get too cozy with any one location. And here's a big one, performance-based pay for court-appointed attorneys. Only pay them for cases they win. This would actually make them work for you, not just their paycheck. These reforms could dramatically change the landscape. No more endless cases, no more unchecked bias. Instead, we'd see a system that's accountable, efficient, and most importantly, just. So if you've been tangled in the family court web, Know this, change is possible. Let's push for a system that serves families, not the professionals profiting from their pain. Thanks for tuning in. Let's make some noise and demand the reform our families deserve. Stay strong, stay informed. See you next time.
Join me next time on Make It Make Sense, where we continue to explore the quirks of our delightfully dysfunctional world. Until then, stay sane out there.
I should introduce myself, I suppose. In double O, also well known as that concrete rose.
All right, welcome back to Politics and Music. Thank you for tuning in to that Make It Make Sense bit. Right here with New York State Senator Pete Harckham. Thank you so much again for being with us. You know, it is a pleasure and an honor. We're going to share some of your social media tags so people can follow you when they get in contact with you if they have any questions about what you're doing. The last question I like to ask all of our guests, which is one of my favorite questions to ask because I think it really gives people an idea of what you're doing and why. You know, and that question is, what inspired you or what inspires you to do the stuff that you do and run for the position that you ran? You know, I know a lot of the elected officials that work, they started out as activists, they went to council members, they went to mayors, town supervisors, and they worked their way up. What was the tipping point or the inspirational moment that you said, you know what, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to make change?
It's a really, really great question, and it's different for everybody. But I think what inspired me to run for the Senate in particular, I've been a Westchester County legislator for 8 years, loved every minute of it, learned a tremendous amount. Then I went to work for the former governor for 3 years, which I enjoyed, but I did not have a free hand. You know, you have a boss.
Right.
And I love the ability to be able to help folks and chart my own path. And I've been asked a couple of times to run for Senate when I was a county legislator. My kids were still young, wasn't a good time in my life. And so after I left the service of the governor, it was now or never, you know, and I'm so glad I did it because the last 6 years have been the best 6 years of my life. I love the work. It's an honor and a privilege. And the Senate is small enough that we can get things done, and it impacts 20 million New Yorkers. And we have made profound change in this state for the better.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. Like you said, it's different for everybody. So it's beautiful. So thank you so much for being here. One word from Senator Pete Harckham, and all I can say is thank you for tuning in to Politics and Music, and New York State Senator Pete Harckham. We wish you continued success in all you do.
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank Andre Rainey for the invitation to be on the podcast today. And, you know, kudos to you, Andre, and all the cool stuff you're doing now. We miss you in City Hall, but we know there are great things in store for you. So thank you again for the invitation. And I think, you know, the one thing that I want to impart to folks right now is, you know, we're in a profound period of change, political change, societal change. Elections had consequences. The former president won, which may not bode well for New York, may not bode well for some of our communities. But the people have spoken on the national level, and I think the point I want to make is there's plenty for us to disagree about in a legitimate way. Energy policy, tax policy, economic policy, a lot of things that we can talk about. We don't have to buy in to the ugliness that comes with Trumpism. We're all neighbors. One of the reasons I love representing the Hudson Valley is our great diversity. It's why I brought my office to the city of Peekskill. In fact, Mayor Rainey was part of that decision. The energy and the vibrance that we're here in Peekskill, great diversity. That's what makes us great. We are so much better than the ugliness coming out of the MAGA movement when it comes to trans people, when it comes to immigrants, and so much more. So please, let's respect the humanity and the dignity and the human rights of all our neighbors. Let's put that first and foremost, and put the labels and put the politics secondary. And with that, have a wonderful season, everybody. Look forward to seeing you around.
Yes, we the ghosts. For the people, by the people. By the people, for the people, you know. Throughout it all, I never give up on my people.